The 2026 Grammys didn't just crown winners, they exposed fault lines in the music industry that had been quietly growing for years. Some artists walked away rewriting history, others left the building with their names trending for all the wrong reasons. And by the end of the night, fans weren't just arguing about music, they were debating culture, politics, and whether the Grammys still represent what people actually listen to. Because this year, the wins felt louder, the losses felt heavier, and the reactions online were impossible to ignore, and it all started with a moment nobody saw coming. From the opening moments, there was a strange tension in the air. This didn't feel like a safe, predictable Grammy night where the biggest pop star sweeps and everyone politely claps. There was something sharper about it, like the industry knew it was standing at a crossroads. The nominations alone had already sparked weeks of arguments. Entire fandoms were preparing for disappointment. Critics were openly questioning whether the Recording Academy was finally evolving or just pretending to. And then the first major award dropped, and suddenly the tone of the entire night changed. Because what happened next wasn't just a win, it was a line being crossed. When Bad Bunny's name was announced for Album of the Year, the room didn't erupt the way it usually does. There was a pause, a moment of stunned silence, and then a reaction that felt historic. For the first time ever, a Spanish-language album had taken the Grammy's biggest prize. Not a crossover project, not a bilingual compromise, not a safe Latin-adjacent pop album, a fully Spanish album. For years, Latin artists had dominated streaming charts while being treated like a separate category at award shows, celebrated but never fully embraced at the top level. This win didn't just break that pattern, it shattered it. And Bad Bunny didn't waste the moment. His speech wasn't flashy or overly dramatic, but it was pointed. He talked about representation, about immigrants, about being told for years that his music was too niche for global recognition. Some viewers saw it as empowering. Others immediately accused the Grammys of pandering. But one thing was undeniable. The rules had changed. And that made some people very uncomfortable. But while Bad Bunny was making history, another artist was quietly stacking trophies and breaking a record that had stood for decades. Kendrick Lamar didn't dominate the night with theatrics. He didn't give viral speeches. He didn't chase the spotlight. He just kept winning. By the time the ceremony ended, Kendrick had taken home 5 Grammys, the most ever won by a rapper in a single night. And that fact alone sent shockwaves through the industry. For years, hip-hop fans had accused the Grammys of sidelining rap unless it fit a very specific mold. Kendrick's wins felt like a correction, but also a reminder of how rare that recognition still is. Record of the Year, Best Rap Album, multiple major categories. And yet, the reaction online was split. Some fans called it overdue respect for one of the genre's most influential voices. Others quietly asked whether the Academy was leaning too heavily on a familiar name instead of taking risks on newer artists. That debate only intensified when comparisons started circulating. Because Kendrick didn't just win big, he officially surpassed long-standing legends in total Grammy wins. And that raised a question nobody wanted to ask out loud. Was the Grammys finally rewarding artistic depth, or were they playing it safe with someone they knew critics would defend? That question hung in the air as the night moved on, straight into one of the most surprising wins of the entire ceremony. Best New Artist is supposed to be a moment of arrival, but this year it felt more like a curveball. When Olivia Dean's name was called, confusion spread almost instantly across social media. Casual viewers scrambled to Google her. Hardcore fans rushed to defend the choice. And that split reaction was exactly what made the win so fascinating. Olivia Dean wasn't the loudest name in the category. She wasn't dominating TikTok trends. She wasn't backed by an army of viral moments. What she had was credibility, years of quiet growth, strong industry support, and a sound that felt intentionally outside the mainstream chaos. Her acceptance speech leaned into that reality. She spoke about patience, about coming from an immigrant background, about not chasing overnight success. Some viewers found it refreshing. Others immediately labeled the win out of touch. Because once again, the Grammys had chosen artistry over popularity, and that choice always comes with backlash. And speaking of backlash, not everyone left the night feeling celebrated. For every winner, there was someone watching their chances disappear in real time. And this year, some losses hit harder than others. Anushka Shankar's loss in the global music category reignited a familiar argument, whether the Grammys truly understand global genres or simply reward whichever name feels most recognizable. Fans flooded comment sections with frustration, accusing the Academy of flattening diverse music into a single category and then handing it to the safest choice. Then there were the artists who didn't lose outright but still felt overlooked. Several critically acclaimed projects walked away empty-handed, sparking accusations that the Grammys once again favored narratives over innovation. And while some fans expected snubs, one particular win stirred more controversy than celebration. Because when Billie Eilish took home Song of the Year, reactions were immediate and divided. Supporters praised the songwriting. Critics argued that stronger, riskier work had been ignored. The debate wasn't just about Billie. It was about whether the Grammys reward consistency more than evolution. And that tension only grew louder as the night leaned into something far bigger than music. At some point, it became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just an award show anymore. Artists weren't just thanking producers and family members. They were making statements, wearing symbols, referencing real-world issues that most award shows try to avoid. Pins appeared, subtle phrases were dropped, messages aimed at immigration policy and enforcement agencies surfaced again and again. Some viewers applauded the courage, others accused the show of becoming preachy. But whether people liked it or not, the Grammys had clearly become a platform, not just a ceremony. And that raised a risky question. If artists use the stage to speak out, does the Academy truly support that? Or are they just benefiting from the controversy? Because activism drives engagement, and engagement keeps the Grammys relevant. That uneasy balance between sincerity and spectacle became one of the night's most talked about themes. But just when things felt tense, the ceremony shifted into something quieter, something reflective. When Cher took the stage to receive her Lifetime Achievement Award, the room softened. For a moment, the debates stopped. Here was someone who had survived decades of industry changes, reinventions, and dismissals, still standing, still relevant. Her speech wasn't dramatic, it was grounded, honest, a reminder that longevity isn't about chasing trends, but understanding when to evolve. Then came the surprise performance that no one had prepared for, Lauryn Hill. The reaction wasn't loud, it was reverent. Fans didn't scream, they listened, and that moment felt symbolic. In a night filled with arguments about what music should be, Lauryn represented what it could be when authenticity leads. But even those emotional highs couldn't fully settle the bigger conversation, because by the time the final awards were handed out, one truth was clear: the Grammys weren't trying to please everyone anymore. This year didn't just highlight winners and losers, it revealed priorities. Latin music wasn't on the sidelines, it was center stage. Hip-hop wasn't treated like a guest, it was dominant. Pop wasn't guaranteed, it had to compete. And perhaps most importantly, the Grammys showed that they're willing to be disagreed with. That doesn't mean they're suddenly perfect, far from it. But the 2026 ceremony felt less like a popularity contest and more like a statement, intentional, flawed, and unapologetic. Fans will argue about the results for months, artists will question what it takes to be recognized, and the Academy will face pressure to keep evolving instead of backtracking, because once you cross certain lines, there's no going back. And whether people loved or hated this year's Grammys, they couldn't stop talking about them. And that might be the most revealing win of all.